Oh my, it's Kellee White.
Hey, it's James Van Praagh.
What are you up to?
Thinking about changing the world.
Me too. We should do a show together.
What would it be about?
Let me show you.
The James and Kellee Show. Hi, James.
Let's change the world, shall we?
Hey, let's change the world for sure.
I'm working on a new copy, a new opening for us. So
I can't wait.
I'm writing it. And it's going to be fun.
It's going to be so fun. Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Based on our experience together.
Oh, you mean driving?
Maybe.
Or any of them?
Well, the driving is pretty good. I think it'll be driving. But
We have had some good ones.
We got it.
Oh my gosh. We have
How's
to
your
say
Thanksgiving?
my Thanksgiving was peaceful.
Good.
How was yours?
Mine was not great. Mine was tough. I was with a friend of mine who fell and hurt herself, and she was on blood thinner, so we had a little bit of a bloodbath. So I was cleaning up blood on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh my God, that must have been a rough one.
It was rough. It was rough. It was a rough one. A lot of people I've spoken to have said they had a rough. And you mentioned it. You did mention it in your astrology last time that Thanksgiving would not be an easy one.
No, we're in between two eclipses. We're still there.
I know the astrology, but from this point on,
would you like me to tell you?
What eclipse season? Please tell us.
We're okay, but first I have to say Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone! It's the second day.
Second night. So light those candles. So let's talk about December, shall we? Because we're going into December.
What's today?
Okay, today's the 29th.
29th.
Today's the 29th of November. But we're going to be in December in a couple of days. And the December horoscopes, the December astrology, the eclipses, it's a very intense month. I'm going to say it's a very intense month. And it might be the most intense month of the year that we've had. And that says a lot. So I'm just going to hit like 3 or 4 of the big ones, and I'll do the rest later on as we get closer. But because we have such a great show tonight, but I really want to hit a couple of big notes here. On December 1st, Neptune finally goes direct, and it's in Pisces, and it goes direct, and it's been retrograde since June 25th. So Neptune rules water. Okay. It rules leaks of information. Interesting enough, right? It rules drugs, delusions, the subconscious, spirituality, creativity, and unconditional love and intuition.
So direct is a good thing, right? Direct is good.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. What's going to happen is it's going to help us get really clear from our myths that we've had since Neptune's been retrograde since June. We've had a lot of myths about how life should be. And I think what it's going to do is going to clear up some things here for us.
Thank you.
So yeah, it should help a lot actually. And it's going to help towards mending traumas for people.
Great.
So it's a good sign. It's a good thing. Now on December 4th, we have this eclipse that I've been talking about for a long time now. It's a new moon total eclipse in Sagittarius. And this is huge because this is the last and final eclipse on the Gemini Sagittarius axis point. The first one began May of 2020. So let's look at where we were as a community, as the world in May of 2020. There was a lot of fear. We didn't know what was going on. There was the virus. And now, as we look at the final one going forward, we also have that Omicron new virus coming out. There may be a connection here with this, going forward with this virus, frankly. And it's a very powerful eclipse. This one is going to actually change a lot of our belief systems going forward. It also brings, because this is a south node eclipse, which actually means endings, and eclipse, solar eclipse means beginnings. This is going to be playing out as getting rid and finishing up a lot of things that you began, but big, bold beginnings going forward. So it's extremely powerful, this period of time. And I want to say something else about it, which is really rare, but I have to say this. This eclipse is at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. What's important about that is the United States is also, the ascendant is at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. The ascendant is our rising sign.
How you approach things.
how we approach things, how we are in
How
the
we,
world,
how
how
we look
we
at
are in the
things.
world. And it's
Mhm.
and it's actually at the United States eclipse point right there. The other oddball thing, which I have to talk about, and we'll talk about this way later, but in February of 2022, Pluto actually has its first return in 276 years. The Pluto return. So you've heard James and I, we talk about the Saturn return, which is every 28 years, and that's Saturn. This is Pluto, a little different. And 276 years ago, if you take 2022 and subtract 276, you have 1776 when we signed the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
So this year for the United States is what I'm saying, between this eclipse and that, it's
Big time.
big. It's big time. So that I just had to get that in. And
And
things
you
to,
said something about something new. Maybe there'll be a new way of looking at the United States.
absolutely, it
Maybe
will
a new
be
way
a
of
change
governing.
of belief system.
Yeah, maybe a new way of governing.
And
It's
that 12
a third
degree,
party.
and actually, James, that 12 degree of Sagittarius means um, spirituality. So I'm having to believe that it's going to change the way we think in
Hopefully,
all areas.
hopefully evolve the consciousness. Yeah.
I really believe that is what's going to happen. And things to do during this eclipse that comes up on December 4th, digestive powers actually are lessened during an eclipse. So eat lightly. Isn't that an interesting
I
one?
was gonna go. I was gonna go on a cleanse during that
Oh, it's
time.
perfect time for a cleanse. Perfect time for a cleanse. Okay. Be mindful of your words, be mindful of your actions. Okay. Set your intentions. This is a big total eclipse, solar eclipse set on this new moon. Set your intentions of what do you want to let go of? What do you want to bring in?
Kelly, let me just interrupt. But the new moon moon in Sagittarius, is it? So
Yeah.
it'll be Sag. Is that right? So it'll be
Yes, that's correct.
Sag Sun, Sag Moon.
Yeah. Very, very, very interesting time that we're going to be in here. Right. Meditate.
I would think because of the Sagittarius, double Sagittarius, a lot of people might feel antsy because
Very
Sagittarius,
antsy.
go, go,
Oh,
go, go, independent, move, go, independence, and
absolutely. I actually write about that on my blog. It's going to be
um,
very, very antsy. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's absolutely. And I would say if you can meditate and rest during this
Mm.
powerful week that we have coming up, we have a powerful week.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there you go. And the rest I'll do Thursday on my show. I'll do a little more of it. And then on Monday, every Monday, I'll do a little more.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, tonight our show is going to be about a physical medium by the name of Leslie Flynt, who was probably the most famous medium in the last century, 20th century, I should say, and the most tested physical medium. The difference between a physical medium and a mental medium. Kelly and I are mental mediums, which mean we really are. We sense clairsentient, and we sense feelings and emotions, and we see clairvoyantly. We'll see things subjectively or objectively outside of ourselves. Subjectively is a little more rare than subjectively. Clairsentient, cognizance, knowingness, gustance, taste, smell, that sort of thing. And Leslie really was a physical medium, meaning that there's a substance in the body of a medium called ectoplasm, and its ectoplasm is described as kind of like cellular particles. I don't know how else to describe it. And when he was a little boy, he would go to the movie theater, and the dark movie theater was a silent movie set, I think it was. And there'd be noises, there'd be voices all around, and people behind him in the movie theater would say, "Shh, be quiet, be quiet." And there was nobody there, and it was the spirits that were working with his auric field to produce and work with the ectoplasm to produce the phenomena of indirect voice mediumship, which is where its ectoplasm exudes out of his ears, nose, or mouth, or sometimes the stomach, and the spirit people create an artificial voice box. And when Leslie was 12 to 14 years of age, this started happening. He didn't know what was going on. At the 18, he went to his first spiritualist church. And I think there he was introduced to his, I think it was there, forgive me if I'm wrong, his team, if you will, a doctor in the spirit world, and also Mickey, which is his control, they call it a control, and that years later will help him. He wrote a wonderful book called Voices in the Dark, Leslie Flynt, and he was, again, most tested physical medium in the history of spiritualism. And he set with from the I'd say 50s, 60s, really like 40s, 50s, 60s, 50s, really. He was really a test beyond belief. And a research couple Bob Woods and I think Green and Bob's. They would research and they would tape record all of his sessions, his seances. And a seance would be where you would sit in the dark with could be red light, and the ectoplasm would be built up from all the participants. By the way, he was the one that had the most of it, but everybody has a certain amount of ectoplasm, and they would create these, if you will, if the right conditions are present, then you will just build this up. They will work with the conditions and build up this voice box, and the spirit people are guided on the other side to use this apparatus, this voice box, and they've described it like a catcher's mitt where you put this around you and you have to send your thoughts to this artificial larynx, and the voice will come out vibrating the one in the physical world as it did when you were alive in the physical world. So you'll hear the actual voice of what the person sounds like. Well, a long story short, it's so much. A great book called
But this is rare, isn't it?
Very, very rare. No one does this anymore. He was the last
Right.
one really that does this because now we have social media, we have computers, all that sort of thing. And in his day, they sat by the fire after dinner at night, supper, and they sit around and chat in the dark. And so they could develop physical medium more then. But nowadays, it's just too busy. It's phonetic. It really is just too. Things change. Things move. So I was fortunate enough to sit with Leslie 4 times. And Leslie used to come he lived in England, Brighton, and he used to come over here to my teacher, Brian Hurst, was my teacher, and they had met in London years before. And he used to come over every summer to Hollywood, and he used to do seances at Brian Hurst's house on Irving Place Boulevard in Hollywood. And I was lucky enough to be there for those. But for a couple of things, we have Leslie Flynt. He was able to bring through many, many well-known people, Queen Victoria, Oscar Wilde, all these different people. And it was very interesting that you read this, Kellee. Tell people about what you read about the German mediums and different mediums around the world kept on bringing through.
They kept on bringing through Rudolph Valentino. Oh, actually, no. Before I get there, I'm sorry. They kept bringing up the Arab, and every different medium would come up to him and say, "There's an Arab here, but he's not really an Arab. There's an Arab, but he's not really an Arab." And this came from several different countries and several different mediums.
And he's going to help. This Arab man is going to help you. So Leslie thought it was a guide of his.
Yeah.
And I think some of the messages were, "I need you to help me. I'm here to help you. I need you to help me. You'll know this is true." Well, to make a long story short, Leslie ended up staying at Brian's place. Valentino Place was the first place he did a seance in America, was Valentino Place. I think it was the Hollywood Hills. And he looked and said, Valentino Place. And Rudolph Valentino came through him. And he was waiting all that time to come through that medium, because every spirit has their actual medium that they can use and want to use. So Rudolph Valentino has come through, and he had a horrible voice, terrible voice. And that's why he didn't do well in talkies, because he didn't have a good voice.
Oh, wow.
So I've sat with him those times, and as just everybody sitting in a seance room, there's only 7 to 10 people. I was very, very nervous each time. And 3 of the times, nothing really happened. Once, nothing happened at all because the conditions were not right. We sat for a good 45 minutes. Nothing happened whatsoever. Another time they came through, Mickey came through. So Mickey is Leslie Flynt's guide, if you will, one of his guides, or they call it his control. And he was a Cockney boy, and he was a newspaper boy. And he was killed when he was, I guess, delivering newspapers, going in London streets with newspaper, and a horse and buggy killed him. And he chose to come back to help Leslie with his mediumship. And Mickey comes through in these seances, and I have many, many tapes that I actually just went today and found in my attic. And I got a couple of, there's so many, but with Mickey teaching a little bit, I've been in seance, so Mickey comes through, and the first thing he is, "How you doing all there? How you doing?" And he first said to me, "Did anyone ever tell you were a medium?" This is before I was even a medium. I was working at Paramount Studios right down the street from Valentino. The whole thing was in Hollywood where you are. Leslie goes, "Ever tell you were a medium?" I said, "Yes, I'm sitting with Brian Hurst." He goes, "What are you doing about it?" I said, "Well, I'm sitting with Brian." He goes, "It's about time you do something about it." And he was a lovely, lovely Cockney boy. But anyway, I have some recordings of Mickey. And anyway, Queen Victoria's come through, Oscar Wilde's come through, very famous people in history has come through, Russian czars have come through. And I think Renee has one person. Well, why don't we just play Mickey first? I'll play Mickey. This is what Mickey sounds like. So this is Mickey speaking to the voice box of Leslie Flynt, to this animated voice box. Okay. Now this is on a cassette, so try to hear. Okay. If I put it in now, wouldn't it?
the light from them is absolutely crazy. I mean, how do I put it? You see, the point is that no one on this side, or for that matter your side, can enter into a state of being until they have earned it or made it possible by their thoughts and their actions. And then when you get to a certain pitch or a certain point, then you'll begin to register on that level of consciousness, and then you become aware, you see. And this is things that some people don't understand. You get some people, particularly some mediums, I won't mention them, and the point is, yes, about talk. You think that they were on a very high level, and all the rest of it. Well, I'm not saying, perhaps I shouldn't say, but I don't altogether agree. But you see, you cannot enter into a state of being until you have helped in some shape or form, often with the help of others on a high level, to enter into that state of being. You've got to work at it. You don't suddenly become an angel just because you want to become one. You have got to make the path, and you've got to tread the path. And sometimes you've got to sit by the wayside because you find that you haven't the energy or the vitality, or call it what you will, or you haven't made it possible to go further. You get to a certain level, and it's rather like the Good Samaritan, who helps the less fortunate and impedes, so it seems, his own progress in so doing, or reaching a certain goal. If you have a goal, which everyone should have, and it should be a high spiritual one, then you must be prepared sometimes to be sidetracked, because sometimes things have to happen. You have to learn certain lessons. You have to make certain sacrifices. These people who assume that they're going straight ahead and everything is going to be opened up and revealed to them are stupid. You cannot have anything revealed to you until you yourself have made that a possibility by your thoughts and your actions and your sacrifices. People don't seem to realize that many of the things that happen to people in the material world, they to some extent have had to endure because it's necessary for their progression, sometimes even into suffering. But I'm not advocating things that happen in your world that are bad, I mean, such as illness or sickness or cancer or war or whatever it is. Man, to some extent, creates the situations, creates the conditions.
It's true.
It may be in a previous generation, seeds are sown, and the next generation have to face up to what has been created by the future faults and the stupidity of a previous generation.
And he goes on to about this. It's so true that we're all connected as one. That I love that point that he said. Previous generations, we really have to realize that we have these seeds have been sown, and we have to live through that for the ignorance of previous generations. So we have to rise above it.
Wow. Really interesting.
And I think we have one from, and it's so funny. You're sitting in that seance room, and you never know who's going to come through. And I've once, when it happened to me, I'm just sitting there and I was very nervous. And I'm thinking, no one's going to come for me. Like, okay, just give it up, James. No one's going to be fine. And all of a sudden I hear, I would speak to, and I have it on tape somewhere. I couldn't find it tonight, but I looked everywhere. It's a Frenchman. He goes, I want to talk to James. I want to talk to James. James, and this is way before the mediumship. This is really before I even felt. James, I want to talk to James. James, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, yes. James, you're psychic, you're sensitive. You're going to hurt many people, my friend. My friend, we have cheer for you. And it was loud. And he said, we are working with you, my friend. You're going to write a book one day. You're going to travel over water. We believe in you. You're going to help many people, my friend. What we say now, you don't understand. But years from now, you understand. And of course, I'm freaking out, saying, and I want to talk to my mother. I'm like, because she just passed. I said, is my mother there? And he goes, your mama? Oh, hold on. Your mama, hold on. And then Mickey came in and he said, did your mother, did she have some problem with the chest there? And she did. She had cancer. And then she came through, but she came through faintly. I have some cassette, and she said, Jamie, my nickname. And she said, and very much the way her voice was, the way she would speak, her diction. And it was definitely her. And I played with my siblings. They all freaked out. So that's Mom.
I bet.
Yeah. So it was pretty good.
Wow.
So Renee has there's a Leslie Flynt trust. It's on the internet, and you can hear voices. And this is Oscar Wilde, who's come through one of the seances. So Renee's going to play Oscar Wilde for everybody. He was a real card. You have to listen.
I'm not quite sure if you can hear me.
Hear you quite well. Quite clear, we can hear you.
If you close your eyes, you might hear it
But
better.
I'm precisely doing nothing at the moment. I can't see how you can consider that I'm doing extremely well.
That's what Patrick was saying, something we hadn't heard yet.
Yeah.
I've never been known to say nothing.
You say you have your name, Shandel.
I couldn't say something of value, and I'd much rather say nothing.
Who is it speaking to?
This is
Who is
most
this?
extraordinary.
That's right.
Then
Hear you
again,
quite well.
being dead is an extraordinary business, especially when you're talking to people on Earth who are supposed to be alive and are very much dull and dim and dead in consequence. Extraordinary business is it.
Yes.
Seems to have been a great deal of interest in my works lately.
They don't know who it is yet.
That's what you said.
Great deal of interest in people.
Oh, it's secret.
From the researchers, they don't know who it is.
Quite clear.
Come on, friend.
Many people from this side invariably try to say a great deal, and in consequence say very little. The simple reason that we're having to utilize this extraordinary method of communication. Why they cannot invent something more congenial, more suitable, more successful, this I can't imagine. I suppose one must be grateful for mediums. It's a pity that mediums have to be human beings, because they're so difficult, so complex. Take this medium, for instance. If you would see this medium as I do from this side of life, you'd realize what we have to contend with.
That's why we can hear you quite well, friend.
Fred, may we have your name, please?
Why are you so concerned with my name, surely? What I say is far more important than my name.
Yes, you were surprised?
My name got me into a great deal of trouble when I was on your side.
Oh, never mind.
Yes, it's very pleased taste to other people, you see. They ask who it is, and we sometimes we can't tell, you see.
You can tell them it's Colonel Boget.
Oh.
Medium laughing. That's Leslie.
I don't
Why is it
think
so loud?
I relish that, I don't know. But, anyway, friend, we're very pleased to have you through anyway.
And I'm sure you're much more pleased to have me through than I am to come.
Oh,
At least, perhaps it'd be more correct to say that I'm quite happy to come. But I certainly wish that you were much more congenial in trying to converse, to pass through to you my thoughts through this particular method of communication, which may or may not be successful according to whatever way you happen to view it. But from my point of view, it's the most irritating business. Here am I trying to talk intelligently to you, and I find this fluctuating thing that I have to use makes it practically an impossibility.
Interesting, isn't it?
When one writes, though one has the medium of the pen,
Anyway, that's us
there's
for a
nothing
while.
to bar you
Thank you, Renee.
from
Wow.
clearly putting down
Yeah.
on paper your thoughts.
In your world,
You
it's
even have to
natural.
use
In our world, it's naturally sinful, but in my world, it's sinful but natural. Or something like that. Very, very funny. And he was talking about that apparatus that that fluctuates, and they've got to concentrate their thoughts into that.
Wow.
Or whatever. It's very hard. That's not congenial.
And
But
we should also mention that before we went on air, Renee was testing this, and he turned it off, and it continued to talk.
And we didn't do
Oscar
anything.
continued to talk.
Yeah.
for several minutes.
Several minutes. That's right.
Wow,
right.
that's
Yeah.
powerful stuff.
Yeah. And let's see. And then also Queen Victoria came through. Which is, if so, you go to Leslie Flynt's site, it's a wonderful site, the Leslie Flynt Trust. And a gentleman went through a lot of trouble to transcribe all of those many years of tapes, if you will, from reel to reel, and got them onto online. And God bless them, because it's a foundation. And it really is wonderful for people to realize that there's a death, and to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how exciting it was to be a part of that, and to feel them around, and to hear them speak, and it was just amazing.
Well, I went to his site and I was so fascinated by all of it, by the stories that he told. And one of the stories that he told, which I thought was so interesting, there's so many, but one of them was about World War II, right when World War II was beginning, and mediumship was at a very big high, actually. But what happened is apparently the atmosphere was so filled with fear that
Yes,
even mediums were having trouble doing their work. I
correct.
thought that was so interesting because
Because they refer to it as the conditions of the atmosphere, the conditions
right,
in that field, which is all around us. And people
right,
don't realize that all around us there are things. It's energy all around us, and at that
right,
level they see that energy. And just like when they come to us, Kelly, for a reading, and they'd say, you're overthinking it, or you're worried, or you got to lighten up, or it's hard for us to
right,
function if you're just thinking too much. It's an atmosphere, and it's how you create the conditions
right,
for good communication. And fear pushes things away. Fear really
right.
is the hardest thing to deal with. So love and fear, it's all there is. Love is our natural vibration, fear is not. So yeah, you can
Hmm.
imagine.
Wow. That's so interesting. He also said about that time that was really caught my attention is that he became a conscientious objector. Did you know that during
I
the
didn't know
war?
that. Did not know that.
He
Wow.
did because what happened is all of these souls that had passed over from during the war, they were taken surprise. They were surprised to find themselves there, and it was really difficult for Leslie to do the readings with them. And he said, "You know what? I'm not gonna do that." And he became a conscientious
I see
objector.
there's a Karen Gorman which says follow Steve in the medium. You can delete that, Renee. We don't support people that put people's names up there we don't know. So I recognize that we need mediums, but I think that's like free advertising for people to do that, and that's not right. I don't agree with
Yeah.
that. So we can delete Karen. Sorry, Karen, it's not good to do that. Thank you. Sorry, but that's not fair to everybody.
Yeah.
And what did you read about him, Kelly?
Um, well, also that, oh, he used the term, which you've used many times, body snatchers. So let's explain what a body snatcher is when you're doing a reading for somebody, and especially when you're doing a big live reading with a lot of people. So
Yeah.
a medium you'll get some answer, you'll get something, you'll be talking about
Yeah.
somebody, and then all of a sudden somebody says, "Oh, that's my father," and it actually isn't.
Yes. So it's such a desire for many in the audience to
Yeah.
be the recipient, the correct recipient. And it's very difficult for the medium to know, because it would be much easier if the spirit comes and say, I'm going to go to my mother in the second row, third seat to the left. It doesn't work like that, because we're talking again about conditions, about different dimensions, about thoughts, and about energy, the vital force, and the conditions of the audience members. And there's such a desire for so many people to hear from them that they just jump on anything. And the
Mhm.
medium has to really feel what resonates with them and the correct recipient.
Right.
Now, I take quite a while, right? But like I did 2 weeks ago with a man with a trumpet in the
Right.
baseball. It
You
was
were very
amazing,
clear. It got closer to somebody, closer to me, and you were like, "No, no, no," and then you had to whittle that down, and then you got
because
the exact person.
the spirit people don't
Mhm.
know how to communicate correctly with, just
Right.
they just don't know how to, just a new thing for them as well sometimes. But it was really interesting, because a good developed medium will know and feel when it is right, where it belongs.
Right.
And love working with Janet Havoc from when we do
Yeah.
demonstrations together from the Journey Within in New Jersey. And she's the same way. She'll know who a recipient, if it feels right. And that's very important. So a body snatcher are those people that just grab onto anything, and it doesn't belong to them. So that's
Right, right.
well, a
Also,
body snatchers. And I guess Leslie coined that term.
he turned, yeah, in like 1950 or something. Also, I thought this was interesting. You had talked about how he had been tested. He was the most tested medium of
Yes,
all time.
all time. They
And
put paper around his mouth and around his legs, and around his arms, and there are pictures of him in
right.
his book. And yep, and I've had personal conversations with Leslie, And he would tell me all these lovely things. The Capricorn man. I'll never forget. Before one of the seances, I went early to this to the house. They were going to do the seance, and it was just Leslie and myself sitting before everyone got there.
Wow.
And I remember this back when I was working at Paramount Studios, really. And he looked at me, and behind me, I guess, is a television set. And Leslie said, "James, I want you to know that one day that box over there, that's going to be important for you. So I tell you that." He goes, "Use it in the best way you can."
And that was before you
Before the
had written
seance.
the book, before anything.
Before I was anything, before it was even developing.
Oh,
So, and I went to be a sitcom writer. That's why I moved out to California.
right.
So I thought, oh, it'll be a sitcom. So little did I
That's,
know.
well,
But
one of the men that tested him, which was really kind of fascinating, Dr. Lewis Young tested him. And how he tested him is he filled his mouth
water,
literally with colored water. I mean,
sure,
can you imagine that? And for the whole duration of the
sure.
doing a seance during this period with your mouth covered and taped, you can't do anything, and
Imagine
yet it still was happening, you know.
this is happening. It's outside. Yeah, it was the most tested medium. Incredible. And yeah, pretty incredible.
Mm,
And described has come back through several other mediums. Has come back with messages, Leslie, and he said, "Oh, I've had a nice house over here." And that's because he goes, "It's important that you all remember that we create the world over here by the conditions we create in the physical world. So live the best life you can, and don't waste your time. This is the
and don't
message.
waste your time.
Don't waste your time."
Yeah.
Very down to earth Capricorn man. Yeah.
Wow.
January 7th or 6th, I think it was.
Mm,
Yeah, and he used to see the royal family, by the way. He was their medium during World War II, end of World War II, and the 50s, and that's where Queen Victoria came through him. But the royal family very much into spiritualism, always have been, and healing. Really, Charles is very much a healer, and they talked about it. They have mediums there a lot. I was supposed to do a reading for Diana before she went to Paris, didn't do it. Something happened. I was also going to read Sarah. And the day I was going to read her, she was called back to England because that tabloid thing happened with her and her
yeah.
husband, and it was ended.
Probably for the better that you didn't.
For the better.
For the better. Just
I
saying.
turned down a lot of listen. I turned down some incredible readings. People think I turned down Barbara Streisand. I've turned down a lot of big time people,
Yeah.
politics, and because it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
I agree. And don't we have, Steve Kanicki says, can ectoplasm be collected and tested under a microscope? Good question.
Great question, Steve. I don't think it's a living thing at aspects. So I think it certain conditions,
Okay.
something would happen to it. So I don't know. It couldn't do well in bright light. So it would not survive, I guess. I don't know. It's a dim light, yes. So I don't know the answer to that. I would think not. But I'd love to. It's a great topic to study the substance. And there have been some studies done. I'm not familiar with them, but about what the substance actually is.
Mm. Wow. I think
It's
that
like
would be.
Yeah, and there's also I think we have Renee. You want to play another one?
Oh, yeah.
They're all saying in the seance room. Also, this man is so lovely with his philosophy. They said, "What is your voice?" She goes, "Oh, my voice. You would know me as Gandhi. Gandhi is my voice. Gandhi."
Oh my gosh, Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Wow.
You have to really listen hard, intently here, because some of these recordings are not the greatest. Remember, they're from reel to reel. So. Can we play it? No, maybe not able to. If we can't, Renee, that's fine. I'll just place up with one Mickey on.
Sounds like Gandhi's trying to speak.
Well, I remember when maybe another one.
Is it Queen Victoria one?
Oh, here it is. I think. Well, it took a while for it to become. It was, you have to remember, it was very quiet. It is in London. It was very. But let's see. Queen Victoria comes through. I have some more here. Let's see.
So fascinating.
It's fascinating. And then Mickey could be a philosopher as well. But they talk about another guy comes and said, you have to understand, he speaks to you from the sphere he is from. He does not know what that was above. So there's many above him. He speaks to the sphere of his understanding.
Ah, okay.
Your mind. You can open up your vision. You can open up your heart. You can open up your soul to the reality which is all around and about you. There are great souls on this side waiting to pierce the darkness of your world. And I mean, all right, I do my job as best I can, and my job is obviously to prove the reality of life after death. For some people, that's necessary and essential, and I think it's a very important job. But it's only the key that opens the door, and very few people, well, the spiritualists in particular, ever unlock the door and go in. They'll peer through the bleeding keyhole, but they won't unlock the door. As long as they can get what they think they need, and I'm not condemning this because it's vital and important, but they seem to stop on the threshold. And this is what worries me. It worries a lot of people on this side. That until you open up yourselves to the reality of what lies behind all that effort and all that work, there will be no real progress, no harmony, no understanding, no true realization of what we are endeavoring to do. We are held back by people on your side. This is the truth. Until you step out, as it were, of the body temporarily into the realm of the spirit mentally, I don't mean through death, but while yet in the flesh, you open up your heart and your consciousness to what we are trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. We lead you gradually on the path, but we cannot make you take a step further until you yourself make the effort. You know, there's so much that we want you to know. We want you to realize the potential that you have, what you can do and what you can achieve on your own. Of course, we are behind you, but you have the power within. All the great prophets, all the great teachers talked about the power within. Jesus understood it. Jesus knew of these things. Jesus accomplished and did remarkable things because he knew the possibility that lay within himself.
True.
He knew that
force.
he could do all the many things that he did do, and he achieved. And he said others could do likewise. Greater things than these shall you do, for I go to my Father. Yet nobody has achieved anything comparable to what Jesus did, because they hadn't the realization of the potential within themselves, of the power of the Spirit.
Interesting.
Wow. I love the philosophy. Somebody said she sounds like Mavis. And
it's a boy, actually. It's a Cockney.
It's a boy? Oh.
He was probably around 12 years of age, 11 years of age. He's a Cockney boy, and he sounds different. Machine recording, it's still there, but sometimes he's very high pitched, sometimes he's low pitched. But and sometimes he has no philosophy; he just cuts through. But it's interesting when he cuts through, and you can tell he's frustrated a little bit by doing the work that people don't get it. You know, they work so hard on the side, as you know, Kellee. They work so hard creating things to happen, to make things happen, and that we humans just don't go deeper. We're just like, okay. You know, it's just terrible.
It's the same thing as when somebody passes away, and you'll see, you know, all of a sudden the light will go off, or a feather will fall right in front of you, or a butterfly will just, you know, right. And people will say, "I have had no signs." And I'm like, "I'm sure you've had signs here. You know, I'm sure of it."
Again, I think it comes into that whole thing about control, and they have to control, and there is no control. And they just realize that there is no such thing as death, that death is part of life. And then we go to sleep every night. We die every night, we go to sleep.
Right.
And there's no pain in death whatsoever. It's really going home. I told this story the other day, maybe today did I tell it? I wasn't sure. Of Mary, the lady of Scots, the Scottish lady. Did I tell you that one?
I don't think so.
So they had these two doctors and researchers were doing this Leslie Flynt seance, and a lady comes through and she goes, "Hello, I'm trying to get this right. This is Scottish. My name is Mary, very simple lady, Mary." And well, how'd you find yourself, Mary? "Oh, I didn't know." She goes, "I didn't know. I didn't have a phone myself. What did you?" I'm trying to my Scottish accent. Some people go, I just think, how do you just sit there? Next thing I know, I'm out of my body, living there. I just don't understand it. She said, "It's just so strange. And I was feeling this fine. But then I look over and I'm in a bed of some kind. And I look over, there's a wee tart in the next bed next to me. And the little girl, I said, 'What are you doing here?' And she goes, 'Well, you're dead.' I go, 'I can't be dead. I feel fine.' And she goes, 'No, you're dead.' What'd you die of? Mary asked her. And the little girl goes, I died of diphtheria. She goes, diphtheria? You look just fine. Well, I died of diphtheria. And she goes, I don't understand. She goes, it's all so confusing. And then she goes, I saw my sister Kate come into the room. She goes, it was like a hospital day, because they asked her what the hospital was. And she goes, it was like yours, but it wasn't. It was open ceiling. It's just a very open place. Light coming in, not the sunlight. She said it was streaming of this beautiful colored light. And she said, I had my sister Kate come to me. That was so strange. She goes, because Kate died many years ago. Maybe Kate's dead. And I said, oh, is it you? She goes, yes, it's me, Mary. Said, you're dead. You are too, Mary. What if you just died? You're dead. Why am I wearing my favorite dress? I don't understand. And well, because I dressed you with my thoughts, I knew you'd find that comfortable. And what they do in the spirit side of life, they prepare for us to come over. So they will prepare many times you'll go to your mother's house. They create a replica in their thought, materialize the mother's house, because most people feel comfortable when they pass over to be in their mother's house and look exactly as it did as you were a kid. And that helps with the acclimating yourself to that new vibration, that new world, to new space, if you will. And
what a comforting thought to know that.
yet most people will do that if they need it, you see. But the spirit people, your loved ones, work at creating that environment for you, basically. And there's another lovely story with this. Well, let me finish that one with Mary. So Kate said to her, don't worry, you just rest. And in time you'll understand. But rest for now. Another word, resting means get back the prana, get back your force.
Yes.
Yes, and sometimes those who pass over, mostly everybody really, has to go for a little brief resting period where you get back that vital force, because there's a little bit escaping when you leave that physical body and you're going through those different dimensions.
Right.
To rest and build up the force. And there was such a beautiful story in one of the Leslie Flynt readings. It was just so I cried my eyes out. It was a man who described, the woman described was like when she passed over, and she was, I think it was her husband, and she died very early in the relationship. They'd been separated about 35 years, but they loved each other so much. And so she was alive, she was on the earth, and he'd passed over, and she thought about every day and so forth. She described that when she went over there and she met him, she said the most beautiful thing, he brought her to a house that he created for her that she loved, because he knew she would love that house because it matches who she is. And he said, and I created a garden for you. They go to the back of this place, this dwelling, and there is this beautiful flower, if you will. He says, I created that for you. And as she's looking at it, it begins to grow larger and larger, like Jack and Beanstalk, larger and more colorful and larger and big, 8 feet, and they goes higher and higher. And he goes, the reason it's getting larger like this is this represents my love for you every day with them.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And they create things like that over there. They've been talked where they've been walking down a street, if you will, if we understand as a street, and they visit someone's house. And the houses over there are perfectly, if you will, aesthetically placed so that the land is equal to the house, if you will. And they've described where someone is sitting like on a porch and a friend goes by. They say, hello, how are you today? I'm just great. Oh, I sent you my love. And they pick up some flowers and send them to the person on the porch. And the flowers go down and become part of the floor on the porch.
Wow.
Embedded in the floor. So many wonderful things. So, yeah. So some wonderful information came through Leslie Flynt seances.
Wow. Gosh.
Do you have any more, Renee? Is there anyone else that you have? I don't know. Sure. Renee was going to try to get some people from the website if you could hear it.
One of the things that he also talked about was, again, during World War II or during different crises, that there were souls on the other side that were sent to help, and they were spirit people helping with whatever disaster was going on. Oh, now who is this?
There's a Chinese philosopher that's come through, and it was recorded in 1959. I lived on Earth centuries ago in China. I'm going with several. It's interesting.
Oh, Confucius.
Was it Confucius? Could be. Was it? I'm not sure.
Wow.
I'm going to try to play it. It might be hard to play it.
Wow.
They also talk about a lot about religions over there, and they talk about, the couple, the researchers have asked about religion, people's belief systems, and they do describe there are various realms and vistas over there, as we often said, space and places, and you go to that realm which you created, your belief system is. So if you were a Taoist, you go there, or a Buddhist, you go where Buddhist,
Right.
where you feel the connection. When my mother passed over, she came through and she said a priest met her. She was very Catholic, and she went to a Catholic environment, and she felt comfortable there. So you tend to have,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we could play these. Well, yeah.
People are loving what heaven is like, hearing about that.
Oh yes, I'll play more of that.
Yeah.
Well, Renee works on that if we can do it. But they've often talked about. It's just so amazing that when my friend Olivia passed over, my friend Olivia was really one of my best friends here on this earth, and we used to go to seances. We really developed together. We went to God meetings around the world and healers and so forth. Once in Hollywood, we went to one guy, and the guy was so ridiculous I had to leave the room. And the demonstration, and I kind of left her in the lurch. Anyway, we made a pact with each other that whoever goes over first will tell each other what it's about, what it's like. And I've told the story before, so they've heard it before. And it was really interesting because it was 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm driving down the street here, El Camino Real and Cerritos, and I see Olivia's face right in my windshield. And I hadn't spoken to her probably 3 months. I know she was getting into a home, a facility, but she just didn't want to be around, by the way. She was very independent, did not want to be around. Did you know her?
I met her once. I did a circle with you.
There you go. That's right.
Mhm. Lovely.
Lovely lady.
Mhm.
So she came, and she was always an Aquarius lady, and she went on my cruises, and she was a great time. And I said, well, Olivia, what was it like, Olivia? Because she had asked me if I could get somebody to help her pass over because she did not want to be here. And I said, I can't. I couldn't think I could do that. And I said, what was it like with the suicide? She goes, oh God, if I knew how great it was, I would have done it earlier. She said, because she was at that age in her 80s,
Yeah.
she didn't have much time. And she said, no, nothing happened to me. It was okay for me there. And she said, it was the most astonishing thing. She goes, the most astonishing thing. And this is someone who's had experiences like I have all these years.
Wow.
All these people came to greet me. And it's like walking to a movie theater and people looking up at the screen. And she said, I know, look at the screen. And I walk up into the screen. And as soon as I walk in the screen, she said, and I look back at all those people, and she goes, they're the ones that are the ones you call alive, the ones on earth who are just sitting there. And she goes, we're the ones that live. And she goes, I went to the screen was a beautiful flowered bed of flowers, and all the flowers were growing and colors were incredible. And I was met by all my friends and family and people, well-wishers, she said, people I didn't even remember. But one day in my life, I smiled at them, or opened the door. I did a nicety for them, and they came to greet me, to welcome me home.
Wow.
Me home.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I said, well, will you come back? And she goes, why the hell would I want to come back there? And, and that afternoon, her daughter emails me and she said, I have some sad news. My mom passed away.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
already.
Oh my gosh.
The funny thing about that was I was with her daughter Sharon at Olivia's apartment. I'm going through a memorial. And Sharon said, I feel really, really bad. And I said, why, Sharon? She said, well, my mother used to love, I guess it was Grand Marnier. I said, yes, the drink, the liqueur.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, I feel so bad because I knew that my mother's last drink was going to be that Grand Marnier. Because when I came to the house, the bottle was on the kitchen cabinet. And she said, I drank the last of it when I was visiting last time. It was an empty bottle. So my mother took whatever she took and then went to get the drink, and there was no drink.
Oh, oh, that's really funny.
Well, she can materialize that. One of the same kick, but she can certainly materialize that with a memory of the taste. How about the questions people like to ask about?
Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, people are saying, James, I can hear you talk for hours. It so resonates blissfully with this. So that's really interesting. Let's see here. Okay, so Terry Timmerman says, how does it work that those who speak, such as Oscar Wilde, are at rest? Do they go on to live other lives? Can they still communicate if they're living other lives? This is amazing.
Yeah, so we've talked about this very often here that, we as a soul, this is just a part of us. I call this the big toe to your soul because most of your soul is outside the body, under the realm. 70% is outside of us. Only like 30% is in here. So that's who we are, more out there, experiencing different worlds and different realms and different spaces and different lifetimes. All at the same time, we're experiencing this physical one. Now it goes to quantum physics and so forth. So, it's hard to apply seventh dimension laws to a three-dimensional world. So it's hard for the human to understand that. But yes, the personality that you would know as Oscar Wilde did that. But there's parts of his soul, aspects of his soul that might be living out a lifetime in different spaces and places and galaxies and planets.
Right.
I
That's
mean, I
very
remember
true.
Abraham Lincoln came to me. Abraham Lincoln came to me and said to me, and it was Abraham Lincoln. I'm like, "Oh, Abraham Lincoln, this Abraham Lincoln at the end of my, remember Kellee at the end of my bed, but right before my TV show, and
Right.
said, "We are of the new order." Remember, he said, "We are of the new order." With a group of them, and we are helping you to change this world, the consciousness. I'm like, "What?" And we are the new. I said, "But you look like Abraham Lincoln," and he said, "That would be the personality you knew me by."
Wow.
But it
Wow.
was beyond more than that personality. It was just a small part
Wow.
of it. And that's all of us. It's just a small part of who
Yeah.
we are. And we recognize those other beings, those other souls who we had this lifetime with when we go over. They wait, they're there for us. So you don't, they're never not there. We come back together. We're all connected. So you'll see them again. So no one ever dies alone. They
Yeah.
prepare for your passing. Even if it's a fast, we call accident or surprise, they've been preparing for, let's say, months or even years, Earth time. They were ready for us to come home. They celebrate our coming home. It's that lovely American that's a saying from the nation's first Americans. Said, but in your world, when you're born, you cry and everyone is happy. And yet when we come into this world, we're happy and those are crying behind.
I
That
do know that, but I just feel like I have to say that I know that all of your guides and all of everyone on the other side that has come to help you, James, you answered the call and you did it.
I
You
had
did
to.
it.
I had no
I mean,
choice.
but
I,
imagine that they really imagine how they worked with you and coddled you and got you to that place, and you did it. You didn't back down.
Well, I felt within me from a
Mhm.
young age. I felt there's something there. I thought I'd be a sitcom writer, but I knew I had to be in California. I said to my mother when I was 3 years of age, he was walking me to nursery school. Never forget it. And some man in the street said something about California. And I looked up at my mother and I said, I'm going to live there one day. No idea what California was.
You were in New York.
I was in New York. I was in Queens, New York. So I was in that way inside me. I knew there was something.
Mhm.
Now I moved out to LA. It's a whole story about it, but I got promised a job on Hill Street Blues by the producer. Moved all my stuff out here to California, and the man lied to me. There was no job. I had no job waiting for me. I didn't know a soul could barely. I didn't have a job to pay any. I barely had money because I spent it on my car, the secondhand car, to get out here. So it really was a test of
Yeah.
and I was like, what's going on here? But I just knew. I don't know. I had faith, I guess, within me that
Mhm.
something had to happen. And I think we all, like Mickey was saying, we all have it within ourselves. If we'll just explore it and honor that inner voice.
Well,
And
and that's the difference. Some people don't. They put it, somebody wrote a comment about it's the left brain gets in the way. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is true. Practicality gets in, or other mindsets or other belief systems, but you didn't have that. You
well,
just kept going.
always live heart first. I think you live with
100%.
heart.
100%.
I find it hard to understand people that don't do that.
Oh, me
It's
too.
funny.
Yeah.
I don't understand that mindset because
I always feel sorry for them.
I feel sorry for them. I feel people
Mhm.
that are lost in a certain mindset or a
Yeah.
limitation or a belief system,
Yeah.
and they think that's it. And a belief
Right.
system that hurts other people is really bad,
Oh.
bad, because they don't realize that they're hurting themselves by doing that. They're gonna
Mhm.
have to serve that.
Right.
They're
Oh,
gonna have to
so
receive
so
what they give
true.
out. They're gonna have to receive what they give out. Really abusers and all those
Mhm.
criminals. And I mean, I think it's horrible in the United States right now. They have the smash and grab. I saw the other
Oh.
these criminals, gangs of
Mhm.
kids, go and smash retail stores, take things. It's just that's not right.
It's awful. It's
It's
awful.
bad for all of us, and it's
Yeah.
not. It's bad for all of us because we're all connected, and we all got to
Mhm.
go together. We have to educate. We have to
Yeah.
educate, teach, and again, it starts with ourselves. We
Right.
want to change the macrocosm, but how can you change the macrocosm? We first got to change the microcosm. First, change your own atmosphere,
Right.
and people will get that. We will often.
Right. Well, and this is going to be, this is a real time that we're headed into for this next month and into 2022 about transformation. And one of the best ways to do that is to take some of your classes, James.
Yes, it's true. My
And
school.
you have a major sale
Oh,
today. I think it's the last
you're right.
night, right?
40% off. Yeah,
40% off, you guys. 40% off.
it's true.
And there are
And
so many great classes here.
yeah, it's really, really true. I mean, I said today in my soul care that it's a great way to bring enlightenment to someone in your life.
Truly.
Whether it's a family member,
Mhm.
bringing heaven home is a great one for people that have lost somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, go on there and see what resonates with you. Think of a person and what would they be benefit for those people. There's so many different courses. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there it is right there. And
Right.
yeah.
It's such a
But
great deal right now, you guys. Really, this is the time to sign up.
I'll wait to the end of the year to do everything. Just
Right. But it's, that 28-day transformation course, which I always recommend that to people. It's such a great place to start.
It changes lives. It really
Yes.
changes people's lives.
Yeah.
People come up to me, when I used to be able out there in the world with people. They used to come to me at book signings afterwards and say, "I took a 28-day transformation course. It changed my life. I want to thank you. I want to thank you." I said, "Yes. Well, good for you that you did it. Good on you.
Right.
Good on you. You never know how these things are going to work out. You take a course now, it can change your life later on. It can change.
Right.
It changes the atmosphere around you, which brings other people into you, and it just serves as well."
Absolutely. And we're in this time period of letting go of the old belief system and going into this new belief system. So
It should be exciting to people. They should be excited about
so
it.
exciting, such an exciting time to be alive. And remember, we all wanted to be here. We all signed up for this. We wanted to be here.
It's only temporary, really. It's only temporary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's some great school classes on psychic ability. There's a great one on astrology.
Yeah, astrology made easy, Kelly, because I don't know astrology like you do, but I just know the characteristics of things. I talk about
That's
the moon
perfect.
and the sign, the basic stuff for people that want to know astrology. Basic stuff.
But what's important about that is it's all about know thyself.
Yes.
And know your partner, know your friends. It's fascinating.
I always ask, but what's your birth sign? I know you do, but it's like so back in the 60s, but you live mostly California. It's true. I mean, if you know someone's sun sign, that means how they act. The rising, how they approach things, right? Your moon's your emotions.
What's emotions, right?
You and I talk about it all the time.
Oh yeah, I've got to know.
And isn't it funny? And I've sometimes picked out people's signs right away, and you have. So, that's got to be a Pisces.
Yeah.
Got to be a Cancer.
I've seen you get the correct date.
I got
even.
the correct date of the birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's like Virgo. The Virgos tend to have long faces, and I can always tell a Virgo. And Virgos, I can read some Virgo. I can see it. I can just feel it, sense it. Yeah.
Yeah. I kid too.
I think, in this world, I think it's important, not only astrology, but just generally speaking about studying and intellect. And we really want to learn as much as we possibly can while we're down here, because that helps our soul personality to expand our soul personality. And we need to learn that. This is a place down here in this world, the building blocks, the physical dimension is where you put the matter together. You can't do that in the spirit because it's a mental world. Here's a physical world. So putting the building blocks, this is where you learn how to put the building blocks together.
Right. Yeah. So everybody check this out. And then next week, James, we're going to be talking about mantras.
Yes, mantras. And Renee's going to help us out with that. Renee's an expert with that field and mantras. And we'll do something special for them for mantras.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And then join me, everybody, on Thursday. I'm going to do Ask Me Anything, and I'll be doing some readings, and I'll do a lot of astrology, too. That's on Thursdays.
The readings? You do mediumship readings? Or
I usually just do card readings. I'd like to know what their birth date is, and I tell them what's going on for the year with them, or what's going on, or what they're about, or, give them something about themselves.
Yeah. Kelly, I just want to tell you what I hear publicly say to you. I can't tell you how many the past month, all my friends of mine, people I know, people have come on and said, Kelly White's amazing. And thank you for introducing me to Kelly White. She's changed my life.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you.
You got to hear it. We work so hard to hear it. Well, back after. And Leslie changed my life. So.
Gosh, thank you, Leslie. And thank you, Renee.
Thanks, Renee. Thanks so much, Renee, for your help.
Renee.
Thanks, Cal. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
The James and Kellee Show.